Okay. Do I need to re-ask the question that I asked?
You can start. It'll be in the minutes. So the
All
video,
right.
like extra.
All right. So I don't know if we can call a meeting to order because we don't have a quorum. But for those gathered, I guess this is an information session where we a number of us have expressed concern about the process the county has employed to seek out a new chief of police. And we were hoping to have a quorum so that we could officially draft a letter on behalf of the ACP, excuse me. Since we do not have a quorum, I have asked that perhaps we have a subcommittee comprised of those who are here to review the concerns of individual committee members toward drafting a letter that could be voted upon when we meet again and have a quorum. Such a letter, Susan and Logan, and I mean to all who know, could that potentially be sent out to the group ahead of the meeting, or would it have to be reviewed at the meeting?
You can send it out. There just shouldn't be any inter-email conversation about it, but it could be there for a preview. So if people have questions or concerns, they can be
Sure.
ready to speak to that at the next meeting.
Okay. Good evening, Cherie.
Hi, I've been here. How are you?
Fine.
So here's just help my recollection, please. I thought at our last meeting we agreed that we would send some kind of letter. And so I don't think we have to meet again to vote on the exact wording of the letter, because we've already agreed to send a letter that covers a few topics. If that is accurate, then I would suggest that we take that just a few people agree to write the letter. Sorry, I forgot to send out my comments, but they were very much in line, but not nearly as extensive as Mike's.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd be willing to take a first stab at basically taking Mike's comments from his observations and putting them into a letter and then sharing that with the group to see if, because it might be easier to get people to say yay or nay to that kind of thing, as opposed to sort of, waiting another, however long it is, I lose track of time, nearly a month to meet to discuss an iteration of a letter.
Right. I do agree with you wholeheartedly. We did consent to write a letter, so that might be, we may be able to stand on that. Logan?
Yeah, thank you. My recollection, and as I'm looking quickly through the minutes, I think the vote regarding the letter was regarding Mike's points that did not, and those points did not address the nomination of the chief. So I don't know that there would procedurally be any issue with Cherie drafting a letter as she suggested. It just couldn't be, which is what the subcommittee was discussing anyway. But I think there was not a vote to send a letter on this particular topic yet. So that would still have to come later.
All right.
Excuse me, when you say on this particular topic, you mean what?
I mean on the nomination process or the appointment process for the police chief.
Right. Okay. No. So I need you to back up a little bit further. So when we took a vote on sending a letter, I thought we agreed to send a letter regarding transparency and the process. Is that not accurate?
That is not my recollection. I can look a little more closely at the minutes. I'll post them in the chat for everyone's reference as well. Yeah. I believe it was because Mike listed a number of items as part of a separate discussion from the transparency of the chief nomination process.
So according to what you have, what is it we exactly agreed to vote on? To send, sorry, what did we agree to send?
The letter was regarding the strategic plan as well as the OIG report response, the OBET score, the SWOT responses, and the
That's
work plan.
yeah. That I think that's not it. I think Cherie is correct. I think that was just a request for additional information. It had nothing to do with the primary issue and concern, which was the transparency in the process, which I think is what the letter should be limited to.
Right, and then I thought we agreed to send this separate letter that you're referencing, Logan, that was an informational, that was sort of an informational request. Can you please, tell us what y'all doing about this stuff right here, kind of requests. I thought that was separate. Is that anybody else's recollection? Or is that what the minutes reflect?
That's correct. The information request was separate and apart from the original letter, which I think is the more important subject to actually make sure we follow up on and express our concerns about.
I do think this may be moot. I'm sorry. I do think this may be moot, given that the letter wouldn't be sent now in any case. To my understanding, the letter would be drafted, and then if the commission wanted to take a vote at a future time.
Well, tell me why you think it's moot again.
Just because I thought what you were proposing was to write the letter and then share it out again to the commission.
Well, what I'm trying to sort of hammer down, trying to narrow down is what is what shall be the text of the letter. Right. So because it was my recollection that we agreed to essentially do two things. One, write a letter saying we really didn't think this process was the best in the world, that it lacked transparency, and openness, really. I mean, I guess it was transparent, but it really wasn't very open. And so we want to be on record as noting that we believe that the residents of this county should have an opportunity to weigh in. That was one letter. And then the second letter was an information request that lists a number of the things that Mike put forward about the lack of strategic plan, the social justice score, just a whole bunch of stuff. The lack of familiarity with certain 21st century police processes, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, I thought we were talking about two different letters.
Yeah, and to clarify, Sri, you're right in the sense that I didn't see the information request. I did not see as a second letter. In other words, I thought we would handle that just as a normal course of business, like what we would ask the department, because it's ultimately up to the department to provide feedback on those, the same as it was when we asked them about their, priorities or plan for the dashboard, findings and recommendations. So I don't see a need for a second letter unless the letter is the normally way we communicate these requests for information. If it's not, then I would just, whatever way we normally just ask the department for answers, because that's all we're really asking for with the second request. But obviously the first part of this is the letter we wanted to send to somebody, presumably the county council or copy to whoever, that would really express the primary concern we started with, including the non-responsiveness to our letter to the county executive early on in the process when we wanted to kind of weigh in. So I think that's the letter that we would ultimately want to agree upon the language and somehow, send it forward somehow. If that makes sense. I mean, that's the way I would think we'd want to go, because I don't see a need for a letter to ask the department unless we have to send a department a letter asking them to respond to some inquiries from us to obtain information.
We don't have to send them a letter. It's just, I personally think that it's always best to to make sure that we have in writing what we're requesting, because things can get a little, it doesn't have to be anything formal, just be an email, but things can get a little confused if it's not exactly, if we're not saying what we exactly want.
Correct. Email would be fine.
I think email should be fine. I think that's the way we usually express our requests for information.
Well, let's focus on why we decided to come together tonight, and that is whether or not we're going to write a letter. So what I recall is that we were trying to talk through a process, and the process would be that as many as could would view or attend the hearing or the meeting, and the rest of us would watch it afterward. And then we would decide if a letter was warranted. And so I even got a few kind of mild responses that everything was pretty much a done deal, and we couldn't really halt the process. But then I got maybe more than half saying that this was still a problematic process, and we still need to respond. And so we had enough who were interested so that we would go to the next step of I guess the process that we were talking through, which would be to write a letter. But I don't know that we took a motion or made an action that a letter would happen for sure. And which is why we needed this meeting to compile the letter and to make an action behind it. And so without the action, like we want to be fair, and we want to stand on what is lawful. So without the action, I believe the best that we could do is put together a plan to still write a letter for the record. But I don't know if we can do it tonight. Christina, you have a hand, and then Cherie. Christina. Okay, you're off mute, Christina. Can you talk? We can't hear you if you're trying to talk. All right, Logan, can we go to you while we're trying to?
Is this better?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, good. Thanks. All right. So I wanted to clarify, because I guess maybe I didn't understand. I thought the last meeting we decided, and I know we're going to go forward, I just want to make sure that we were going to, there seemed to be some sort of concern with the selection of the nominee, and that what the letter was going to have an effect on the council's vote for confirmation. I was under the impression that's what we were doing. And that was based on the perceptions that were given from him himself, the nominee himself, his comments, opinions, and all this. And it rustled us, so to speak. And so then we were like, well, do we have time to affect change here? Or is this vote already happening? Is this confirmation already what it's going to be? And we came to the agreement, I thought, that we would listen to the interview. And then, I guess, granted, we all still felt, or at least as a commission, felt that there was a reason to oppose the confirmation, or at least give our opinion of the confirmation of the nominee to council to affect their vote. That's what I thought we were coming together as. And then when I saw the emails afterwards, I thought that people kind of felt like this might be a good nomination. and or that the decision was clearly and obviously already made by the council. And so our letter would be ineffective, so to speak. Because they pretty much, I mean, almost every council member gave their endorsement right there during the interview.
Mhm.
I mean, so I don't know what that says about the process. So now it seems like maybe we do need to, I mean, I thought that was the path we were on. I don't know if that's still necessary or relevant to even do. And if we do need to switch gears and maybe just talk to them about the process, and if that's the case, then we could do that definitely at like another time. So I guess we have to determine, one, we don't have quorum, but one, to determine if that's what we were headed to, and did we switch on that? Did we decide this is already kind of null and void because according to what we watched from the interview, council has made their decision without input. And it seems to me, I would want the commission to get to the point where the council has respect for this commission, to where they would ask for our input before making such heavy, I mean, this is a huge decision. And for us to have a commission here that's silent on such an impactful and relevant thing to the commission, and no one I don't know of from the council reached out for our input at all. So I think that's really where we need to find our footing. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
You're right, Christina. You are not unclear on everything. Everything that you said, I agree with, and those were what you said of our reasons for attending the meeting and preparing for follow-up are absolutely right. I don't know. I don't recall people being as impressed as they were resigned that it was a done deal, right? But there were still issues with the process, that there were some that were highlighted by some extensively by some, to the extent that we needed to call this meeting. Does the county respect what this body has to say? And do we see that in the selection of this chief? I think that was well underway as we were still gaining our footing. I think one of the ways that we can begin to achieve that is to put on record our displeasure with the process. And I'm even wondering if we could meet with someone who was involved with the process that could give us some rationale for how this happened, or how things happened the way that they happened. I still firmly believe that we need to put together a letter, again, so that it's on record, not just for county officials, but for the people that we're representing, the community, who's all feeling the same way. I mean, we had Daphne, I believe is her name, representing her group, and others. And so to the extent that we agree with their concerns, we need to document it, and share it and let our voice be heard. Unfortunately, we just don't have the quorum. So it's not that we didn't try, but we still need 7 of us, which I think would be 1 more person, in order to move forward tonight. Cherie?
So, I agree with everything you said. I just want to say this because I think this is important. It ain't over until the vote happens.
When
Right.
is that again, please, Cherie?
Ask Susan, because I don't remember. I think it's soon and very soon. But at that point it's over. Excuse me. But before the vote, people have, council members can change their mind. There's nothing, lacking integrity in receiving more facts and changing your mind if you're an elected official. So my concern is always when people say, oh, it's done, we don't need to say anything because they're going to do what they want to do. Well, that's just not cool. It's not democracy. I'm not ever going to get with it. So, so what but I do understand how people can feel that way. I just think it's really important that people decide that that this is still democracy. And until the vote happens, then our voices need to be heard. That's why we're here. And if we don't speak up, then the community really, we have not served them well. So to that end, I would suggest that that we do a letter, that we circulate it amongst this board, and people, I think if you, Chair Bellamy, individually circulate it to get people's approval or disapproval of the letter, we can at least then send it to the county council and say, you know, we did this letter. Sorry, my dog has got some people out he doesn't like. Somebody walking their dog. Me walk to another room. So I think that if we do that, I think that's how we should proceed. We do the letter, people can decide they want to sign on or not. And we let it go at that.
Cherie, is that legal?
Yeah, because we already decided to do some letter. I mean, we don't have to vote as a board to do this. If we individually agree upon seeing the letter that we will send the letter, then we can send it as individuals, and at the next meeting we can ratify said letter as a commission document.
Okay. Christy, and then Christine.
Yeah, I just have a couple of clarifying questions. I can't remember the answer to this. Did the county executive or the police department have any public meetings around like meet and greet with the candidates? I mean, I know there was one that was like invite only, but was there any sort of public process at all? I just can't remember. And second, in other situations like this, maybe you know this, Susan, have they ever just like delayed a vote?
I honestly, I only pay attention to the public safety director appointees, and I do not recall any votes being delayed. There was some concern about the fire chief, and that ultimately expired, and the executive chose not to resubmit that nominee because he didn't feel he had the votes in the county executive side. But I don't know.
How long is it before it expires? Like, what is the timeline?
I want to say 60 days, but I'm going to have to check to confirm.
Thank you.
What was the first part of your question? That was the second part, and I forgot the first part. Sorry.
The first part was whether or not there was any sort of series of public meetings, or I know there was one sort of meeting that was like by invite with some folks but I just don't remember if there was any sort of widespread.
No, the answer to that is no. There were 2 meetings, and both of them were by invitation.
And so I'm thinking, this will potentially be the second chief that we have hired from within. And so maybe that's guiding some of the selection process, maybe because this is a person who has worked for decades. I'm trying to get into the mind of the county executive, those who are up top or involved in the selection process, that because this is a person that's worked for decades, that kind of public scrutiny wasn't necessary, but it probably always is for our highest public safety officer. Cherie, and then Christina's your hand. We'll come back to you, Cherie.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't take my hand down. My hand's not re-raised.
Okay. Christina.
I'm trying. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have the craziest audio issues. All right. And I put this in chat too. I just wanted to clarify for the record that I definitely am an advocate for we fight until the fight is over. And then when it's over, it's not over. And so I definitely just wanted to clear that. I was only iterating the process of what we've gone through and the communications that we received via email amongst ourselves so that it was clear for the record how we ended up in this conversation without actually writing a letter at this point. But so I just wanted to clarify that. No, I'm here for it, obviously.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Eva?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm echoing a lot of other folks' sentiments that we should try to circulate a letter of some sort anyway. I also see no harm in all of us doing a coordinated campaign of emailing and or calling the county executive, even if it's not through our duties as the ACP. At the very least, we can all individually reach out. But yeah, filing a letter as the ACP, even if it's after the fact, would be helpful. I also think it would be helpful if folks could attend. I believe the hearing is tomorrow, right?
Can I ask Susan? So would it be, is there a question of legality if let's say Brian Bellamy, citizen of Montgomery County by way of Germantown, a member of the ACP, am individually writing to express my concern for the hiring process, and these are the reasons why. Because if we can do that individually, we can send those, tonight.
Yes, you can do that. You can identify yourselves as members of the ACP, but you would have to explicitly state that you're not representing the ACP in your opinions and that they are individual opinions, and you can always do that.
Right.
Yeah, and Brian, that's why I'm having my hand raised. I
go ahead,
plan to
Kristen.
just send a note to the council members and the county executive this evening that requests that they delay the vote tomorrow and hold at least a couple of community input sessions.
All right.
Yeah,
So go ahead, Eva.
sorry.
No,
Yeah, so that's the thing, is even if we don't do it in our capacity collectively as the ACP, if council members receive emails from almost half the members of the ACP expressing concern, that should set off alarm bells for them. And maybe it won't, but it's certainly better than nothing. And then we can come together as a quorum, hopefully shortly after Assistant Chief Yamada is confirmed, if indeed he is confirmed, to then file a formal letter in our capacity as the ACP. And, some sort of collective public statement that lets the community know that we have been working on this.
Yeah. I like that. And Susan, I would like to, if there's not a legal question, send an email to all the ACP members so we catch those who are not here to let them know that we can elect to take that action tonight. So that, because there may be others who want to do the same. And so, as Eva said, maybe if they get in 6 or 7 letters in the morning, maybe that will give some pause. But if not, we will have made our voice heard ahead of the confirmation, and we can come together in solidarity afterward.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Other thoughts? I think that's a great idea. Mike, I'm just gonna cut and paste your your comments.
Well, I would say this. I think what you'd want to do is, I tend to get very in-depth and technical, probably too technical. I think what I put together was more appropriate for, or would be more appropriate for, the actual substance of community meetings, individual one-on-one Q&A, right? I think a good, and I just literally read what Francisco had forwarded that Susan shared a few minutes ago. I think his last paragraph has, and I think Terry's email earlier as well, captured some of the kind of, I would say, the shared common concerns about the process and how we got to where we are. So I think, though, at least if I were doing it, those would be the things I think I would focus on, because I think they actually are the more salient points we want to reiterate at this point.
Okay. Are there any other comments, or do we want to dismiss to get to letter writing for those who will be involved?
I just have a question that Susan answered for Christy. She said it expires, it has a 60-day potential expiration. I don't know what that was referring to.
So the county executive sends over his nominee for a particular appointment. And once that's been formally transmitted, the council has a finite amount of time that it has to act on it, or the transmittal expires. I believe it's 60 days, but I need to confirm.
Okay, and this related to Christy wanting to request to delay the vote. I see. So if we delay the vote, will it cause the nomination to expire?
I think he sent it over, I think Elrich sent it over on May 22nd, but I'll check. I can definitely get that information to you quickly.
Okay, government
So
moving
in that
fast, huh? Ain't that something?
Right.
In that case, it's been roughly 30 days. So we would need to stall for another month or so.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments, recommendations, input? All right, let's dismiss all of you who are going to write a letter, and we should be writing perhaps the executive and the council members is
You can, the county executive, I mean, to make your concerns known to the executive, yes. The executive can't really do anything about tomorrow.
Right. Okay. All right.
So it's the county council members who are the folks we should be targeting.
Yeah.
It's the full
Okay.
council, right?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is there an email that goes to all of them, or?
County.council. I'll put it in the chat. Hold on.
Perfect.
But doesn't it actually better reach them if you use their individual council emails?
Yeah, if you go on the county council website, you can do two things. You can send it to their individual emails, and then you can send it also to the clerk of the council, which is the main county council email. And they should distribute it accordingly. But you can, it's just a matter of excuse me, how many names you put in the send box.
Well, you know it, with this short of notice, I think we need to go for individual.
Yeah, I think, do both.
Yeah.
Send it so that it's a part of the official record, which is the county council, that goes to the clerk, yeah. So, and they distribute it. So, but send it to the individual offices as well. And you can find all those on the county council's main website.
I just sent a link with all their individual emails and office numbers.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. In the chat. All right. So there's no official adjournment because we don't have a quorum, but it's 7:19 and we'll end the meeting if you want to stop recording, Susan and Logan. So we don't need to make a motion. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good luck.
All right. Fight the power, everyone.
Fight the power.